Welcome back. Before going to the break, we were talking about the importance of Pakistan-China relationship, and we are going to resume from where we left. Masood Khalid Saab, I wanted to bring you back in and wanted to request you to comment on the importance of trade between the two countries and how to explore more avenues of trade or export to China. We understand that China is opening the economy for imports, and there seems to be a dearth of knowledge among Pakistani producers or manufacturers what to make and what to export. Sir.
I think two important things one must know. Number one, that for the last 2 years, China has launched this major initiative to hold an import expo, a global import expo, which was, I think, the first edition was held in 2019 in Shanghai, and then the last year. It was a huge event, and the focus is on what China could import. We did participate, I think, twice, and that is an opening which is available to our business community, number one. Number two, FTA 2 has been concluded between Pakistan and China, and I think we have more than 300 tariff lines with 0% import duty. So that has given a very big opening to our traders, to our business community, to really explore this huge market. Number three, I found that the deficit was that our private sector was not interacting actively with their Chinese counterparts. The visits of the Federation of Chambers of Commerce or local chambers were not that many. So I think this needs to change, and CPAC has provided us that opportunity. In fact, to really promote this kind of interaction and connectivity between the business community, because in the next phase of CPAC, which has just started, we'll be focusing on agriculture and industrial cooperation, socio-economic, impact projects, etc. So I think this is a God-given opportunity for our exporters, for our business community to now focus on China and see what China is importing. I mean, those commodities, those products which China is importing from elsewhere and which are available here, we can do value addition. For example, I give you an example of this meat. Now, there is a huge demand of meat in China. And right now, they are exploring Pakistani market. But the issue is, our low quarantine standards, foot and mouth disease. Now, Chinese society, Chinese government, they are very quality conscious. They are importing all sorts of products from all over the world. The best possible products are available in Chinese market. They would look at Pakistani market if we really improve our own, standards, which is very important, and do value addition.
But just to be clear, that I am understanding what you're saying. At this moment in Washington, the political establishment keeps on pushing the country for a Cold War, a new Cold War. And yet, American businessmen don't want to give up the economic ties because they see a lot of potential in the market. And we are sitting next to China. And our business community is not even exploring Chinese market.
We have so far not taken full advantage of Chinese market, and now Chinese market is more open, more reform oriented. It's a global mindset which is working in China. So we have to take full advantage of that.
And as we move forward, we are going to talk about how to do that. Ma'am, I'm coming to you with your permission. So you wanted to have a quick intervention.
Yeah, very quick intervention. In trade, exports, there are three things which are important. You ought to have exportable surplus. You ought to have quality of goods, and you ought to have diversity of goods. Very unfortunately, in Pakistan, for the last about 40 years, we have lost the culture of international competitiveness.
Right, and that is very important. Ma'am,
That's why our exports are barely $25 billion in the world.
right. And there was a time when we used to actually focus a lot on ISO standardization.
Yes.
And I don't know what became of that. You can, ma'am, since you have recently come back from China, you can tell us what became of that. And why is it that we are not exploring Chinese market that aggressively? In order to explore the market, first of all, the business community will have to go there and to study what is needed.
I think I'll come back to the basic what Ambassador Riaz Muhammad Khan said in the very beginning, that whether it's our business community or ordinary people, we are not actually, we may be best of friends with China, but we don't look at China from that angle at all. We are still focused on our traditional markets, which is the Middle East, which is Western Europe, and of course North America. Other than these three regions, our businessmen really are not looking very closely at other markets
But
also.
when you make a statement, ma'am, you'll have to qualify it as well. As a businessman, my first motive will be profit maximization. And if there is an opportunity, why would I give it up? This is the question.
Because we don't understand. And like Ambassador Masood Khan also said, that we don't travel there, we don't send delegations there, because in our mind, we don't understand that China actually is a very different world. And in our psyche, we still imagine China of the 1960s and the 70s. And I think that is where our chambers of commerce, our government also, and the Chinese embassy here needs to focus on actually familiarizing the people here of the opportunities that are available.
I totally get what you're saying, but I want to further understand. See, Pakistan, India have fought many battles, many wars. Yet, the entertainment industry, until only recently, was allowed access to Pakistani market. And that is not all. We keep on exploring what is going on in Indian market and how to actually take benefit of that. We are getting opportunity of a lifetime. And you're telling me that the business community for some reason doesn't understand a culture?
No, there are two or three things. Firstly, we don't have any export surpluses.
Okay.
Our export basket is very small.
Okay.
And the most fundamental thing here is, because what we are producing here, for example, which the Chinese may also be producing, they are producing at much cheaper rates than we are producing here. So the competitiveness is really not there. And
so is India.
No. But
so is Bangladesh. But we still keep on working with them. Sir.
I think there is the point you are alluding to is, I think, that cultural barrier and the language barrier. But I don't think that is such a big impediment. After all, we do trade with other countries also where this problem exists. I mean, we go and very actively participate, for example, in these textile fairs in Germany. But we don't participate actively in a host of, fairs and exhibitions which take place in China throughout the year. For example, I'll give you an example, concrete example. You're talking of profit margins. Where our businessman or trader finds that he can make a profit, he does. I will give you an example of these gemstones and semi-precious stones which are being exported in quite a substantial number to China. But there is no value addition. They are raw, stones which are taken by our traders, small traders, but they do earn a profit and they go in streams to China every year. So this is a regular traffic. So my point is, for example, if there is a push from the government, if there is support from the government for value addition in this field, only one sector, I think we can make more profit, we can earn more from exchange.
Right.
And then we, as I said, there is a lag, there is a dearth of interaction at the private sector level, which is very, very important. And this is based on my experience.
And only listening to you actually has dialed me up so much that I'm seriously thinking that if nobody else is going to do it, I'm going to form a company and start doing it.
No, I
Right.
think we have,
But,
we have huge
it's not a question of
competitiveness
campaign.
Yeah.
in
It's not a
agriculture,
question
for
of
example.
campaign. Basically, you have to have quality products.
Right.
What you
which
can
should
sell.
which you should be able to export to the world.
Right.
It's not simply a question of China. If you have quality product and if you can sell it at a profit, Chinese will take it.
Right.
But it is not simply a story about China. You do not have that kind of range of product. You look at your entire trade.
Right.
If your total exports are $25 billion worth, then it means that our capacity is lacking.
Right.
We are not adding quality to our products. And why we are not adding quality?
Right.
Because, first of all, education. Second, in apparel, Bangladesh has gone far ahead of us.
Yes.
Although they import cotton.
Right.
We used to produce cotton, now we are also importing cotton.
Right.
But we produce cotton, but we are not able to have high-end products, even in this particular sector, textile, which used to be our forte.
Right.
So the same is the story everywhere. So there is a lot which needs to be done over here to really energize and to make our own businesses quality conscious and to be able to compete internationally.
Right, absolutely. Vyas Mohammad Khan sir, there is a reason why I keep on actually bringing this up. It must be fifth government which says that all diplomacy is economic diplomacy, right? We keep on talking about these things, but when it comes to the actual product, I understand that there is room for a push factor, but there is also pull factor. Opportunity is there, a market has opened up. If you get orders, for example, only until the government actually introduced some import tariffs on mobile phones and started licensing, Pakistani traders would go to China, to various cities where they produce mobile and buy bulk of mobiles because this country doesn't produce mobiles, right? If you have the opportunity to export something, the investor will invest. Quality will start improving because there is a space. This is how economy works. My concern is why is it that despite so much emphasis on economic diplomacy and economic interest, and now we are talking about geoeconomics, not geopolitics, why is it that all these factors are not coming together and we haven't started producing at that pace?
I think we don't have serious policies at the economic level
Right.
to promote these things. We have goodwill,
Right.
but simply depending on goodwill is neither here nor there.
Right.
You have to have an environment. Environment means many things. Like, for example, if a company from China wants to establish itself in Pakistan, they would like to see that they should be able to put up their shop as soon as possible and be able to export, or they be able to market their goods. Even to get place to put up an industry, to get all the facilities which are needed for industries, it is extremely difficult.
Right.
In China, for example, there were no great economists who were involved. The first special economic zone was Shenzhen.
Right.
It was initiated by a man who was not even a high school graduate, but he was a cadre, old cadre. He was told, he was made governor of Kwantung province. He was told by Deng Xiaoping that you have to make it work in 1980.
Right.
So he got together people and came up with this idea that they are going to have a special economic zone where they are going to give every facility to the overseas Chinese. Come and invest.
Right. Right.
And you will face no difficulty.
Right. Tax breaks, all the facilities.
Today Shenzhen competes with Hong Kong.
Right. And it is, a humongous mecca.
Apart from that, the Chinese advantage is education. universal education, work ethics, professionalism.
Right. And money can take care of these two problems, because you just mentioned, while you are actually telling us that education is important and it is very pivotal, but you also pointed out that the first economic zone was established by someone who was a 10th grader, I think, right?
No. He was a old cadre from the Long March days.
Right.
He was committed. They were dedicated people.
Right. And
that's different.
And because we are talking about economic opportunities, and CPAC actually commits to creation of SEZs as well, ma'am. And you have the most recent experience of the relationship. How much work has gone into the idea of establishing SEZs in Pakistan?
Unfortunately, not much.
Okay.
Because as far as I'm concerned, when we started the infrastructure development project, the roads and the energy projects, we should have started working on the SEZ simultaneously.
We as in CPAC authority,
no,
government of Pakistan,
the government of Pakistan,
or provincial governments, or the
government of Pakistan should have started putting the acquiring the land, putting all the facilities there, so that by the time the infrastructure or the first phase of CPAC was coming to an end, these SEZs, these 9 economic zones, should have been ready for the Chinese to just plug and play. But unfortunately, that was not done.
Okay.
And it is only now, in the last couple of years, that we have suddenly woken up and realized that we had to do the economic zones as well.
Right.
And it's with great difficulty that now this Rashakai zone is sort of coming up a little bit. But it will also take a while for Rashakai to actually take. So I think
I'm
that
glad
the
that you keep on giving me more questions. You just mentioned Rashakai, right? What are we going to produce in Rashakai? Have we established this much fact that we are going to have cement industry or cotton ginning industry or sugar industry, or what exactly? Do we have any plans? Have you seen any documents of that sort?
I think what they are thinking of as please correct me if I'm wrong, this will be the first sort of special economic zone that will take off. Yeah. What I understand of what they are doing is like an omnibus kind of economic zone, which will be a little bit of everything to kickstart some.
They are doing that is.
No. When I say the authority that is looking after the FEZ, which is the KP Board of Investment, and they have a very dynamic leader at this moment who's doing a lot of work. So what they're trying to do is to have some large industries, but also to allocate some land for the small and medium-sized industries, so that it kickstarts the process and it starts to develop a little bit. But the SEZs will only develop if we have policies which are comparatively better than the policies which are being offered in the special economic zones in other Southeast Asian countries to Chinese investors. Because if we cannot compete, if we cannot have those preferential policies in place, then for whether it's Rashakai or any other economic zone, it will be difficult for them to
but that is the problem. When you say omnibus of production, that doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't give me the answer where to actually look, where to go and ask for the kind of investments that are needed. And that is not all, Masood Khalid sahab. My concern again is when you're looking at the overall situation. In export sector, if you remember, there was a question of dollar, there was the question of tax exemptions, zero dated. The textile industry used to lobby. It kept on happening in past 4 or 5 years. if there is seriousness from the business side, there will be lobbying and all these factors will start actually coming into play. Why is it not there?
You see, I think that special economic zones will only take off if there is a coherence of policies, better coordination between the central government and the provincial governments, and some kind of strong interface, between the concerned departments. That is lacking at this point in time. Okay, when the Chinese businessman or potential investor, when he comes and meets the Board of Investment in Islamabad, he is told a different story. Okay, when he goes to Sindh or KP, different story in terms of policy incentives and what they will be. So they get confused. There should be one unified policy in terms of policy incentives and exemptions, whatever you wish to offer to an investor, be it Chinese or somebody else. That is, we have not been able to do that work yet. So that is very important because they get confused, and as Ambassador Nagmana said, that when they are being offered better opportunities and incentives in Southeast Asia, and I've been urging our people here, the concerned people, CPEC Authority and Board of Investment, that look, you have to come up on a minimum minimum common denominator between the center and the provinces to lay out a policy. You can't have Sindh following its own policy, KP following its own policy. So this is where the problem is.
And once again, it is the seventh government which keeps on talking about one window operation.
And another important point that you cannot start building 9 special economic zones simultaneously all at once. What China did, they started with 1, moved on to 2nd, 3rd. They replicated and learned lessons, from mistakes, and some economic zones failed there. But Shenzhen and this Suzhou, then I saw it personally in Suzhou, for example. It is one-stop operation. It's a huge building where you get all the information, all the processes are done there. Here in Pakistan, the licensing procedures and approvals, it's very cumbersome. So it is very deterring, environment for a potential investor. I think we need to, if we want our special economic zones to succeed, good beginning has been made. I don't say that they are not trying, for example, in KP or Dhabeji or Faisalabad. They are doing it. And Chinese, for instance, have come in setting up a steel plant in Rashakai. But we have to, it should be kind of a multiplier effect. So these things have to be
facilities must be there.
And continuity of policy.
Absolutely.
Continuity policy is very, very important.
And ergo, everyone keeps on talking about a charter of economy. But sir, my idea was that if you want to actually bring in resources into one zone, you usually establish a resource center where you dispense with all the knowledge, all the information. I've been looking for that kind of resource centers regarding CPEC and then SEZs. You don't find them.
Yes, you have made a very important point. One window operation. Where is that one window?
There's a window, but we can't find it.
You have to search from Peshawar to Karachi for that window. Look, Chinese came up very soon after, the hit and trial on a very standard policy. And they said there are 7 links and 1 plane which we would guarantee to anybody trying to invest in a special economic zone. That was all these links: water, telephone, the internet, the roads. These were the kinds of links, electricity, everything. That everything would be there. Plane would be that if it's up and down kind of terrain, we will make it plain. So their concern was that if there is a serious investor, he comes up with his resource, the funds, sets up his shop, and then starts producing and exporting or marketing in the country. That kind of thing is not available. The second handicap that I think we have is that we do not have manpower. Manpower means local engineers, engineers of quality, engineers of quality. If an outsider will come, otherwise they will have to bring their own. Skilled labor, labor who can really do good work. So those kinds of people are not there. But I think that with the incentive of money, etc., can be overcome. The litmus test of any such arrangement, these special zones, is that first the Pakistanis are going to invest there. Local Pakistanis and overseas Pakistanis. If you are able to start attracting them, then you will see that the foreigners, Chinese, others, they will not be far behind.
You have to have a working model
so you have
for them to actually come.
you have to have that.
And since you talked about the skilled labor, and you talked about earlier about dearth of knowledge or experience as well, educational diplomacy, is that something that we can do? I understand that because of the economic conditions, we cannot bring in the Western universities to Pakistan as they have established their campuses elsewhere in the region. Can we at least attract the Chinese universities to open their campuses here, educate our children here, because now their universities are also teaching in English. So if you bring that kind of domain knowledge or information here, it might actually revolutionize our students and our working class as well.
On education, I have a view. First, in education, the most important aspect of education is scientific and technological education.
Absolutely.
For example, United States give you, it has the largest Fulbright program in Pakistan. But not a single student is sent to learn technology and science. I'm not talking about medicine. Medicine is a different kind of subject. But even medicine, they get people from here. All these Fulbright scholarships are used for social sciences, economics, international relations, etc., etc. To me, the backbone of a country's strength is science and technology. Let's be very clear about it. And unfortunately, in Pakistan, education in science and technology has regressed over a period of time. It's a long discussion why it has happened. So one thing is this, and that is why you do not get here people who are really of high-class engineers, world-class engineers, or skilled labor which can match the skills of many other countries like in India, etc. And that is why we miss out on many opportunities. We have missed out on globalization for various reasons, particularly because of the Afghan war, the Afghan jihad. But apart from that, we did not have the right kind of policies. You mentioned just now about cell phones, these mobile telephones. Now, the demand was there. Why the government could not think about creating facilities within Pakistan to at least start assembling the mobile telephones? Why do your businessmen have to go and pick up all kinds of telephones from Chinese cities or elsewhere? Why couldn't they come up with some arrangements that do it here?
So there is an update on that. Of late, government actually created enabling environment. Vivo, Lenovo, a couple of other companies have started manufacturing in Pakistan.
But we are hopefully we will do more in this sector.
And that actually gives us, Ambassador Khalid, Masood Khalid, one more example regarding vaccines. I mean, Pakistan could not procure vaccines from international community, but Chinese friends were the first to offer Pakistan a lot of vaccines, and then also transfer of technology. If that can happen, both countries can actually work together especially Pakistan, to create the kind of environment where we can bring in their teachers, their professors, their institutions, that Pakistani educational institutions also improve their quality. There certainly is a demand because population is growing. Is it not true, sir?
Absolutely, I agree with you. But there has been, I have some information which I would like to share.
Sir.
In the last 4 or 5 years, we have moved quite a bit in terms of enhancing our cooperation in education, as well as science and technology. But of course, we can, move on. For example, 10 or 11 Chinese and Pakistani universities have established a consortium.
Okay.
To promote faculty exchange, academic research interaction. So that track has started. Okay. Secondly, we have about 28,000 students, Pakistani students in China.
Right.
Okay. They are doing doctoral and postdoctoral research, and some in very specialized fields which are needed in the realm of science and technology, which are needed to make you a knowledge economy, number 2. Number 3 is that China is giving us a very substantial number of scholarships. We are also sending our people on our own scholarships and self-finance and this and that. But China is also giving us quite a number of scholarships.
Right.
Okay. So you have this track, this stream which is already operational.
Right.
But then the issue is of capacity. We do not have any system whereby, for example, these 28,000 students who are studying there, when they will complete their studies, instead of going to other markets for their jobs, they come here and they are made part of, economic, economic planning,
right.
part of the projects where Chinese are working. So we don't have that kind of system here. I did try to agitate this issue with the Ministry of Planning and Higher Education Commission, but I don't know how much I succeeded.
Right.
But that if Chinese were there, they would ensure that when their students come back, they will be absorbed and they will contribute to national development.
Right.
So there are capacity issues, but I think this education thing, if we can promote it further, we are already focusing on this,
right.
Learning of languages, Chinese and Urdu languages. But this needs to be given more push.
You just said that you tried to agitate this issue, right? What happened then?
Well, there was some movement. I don't know, maybe she would have followed it up. I don't know, but there was some movement. But you say you have to. I came across students who would come to me and they would say, KG, we would be going, we are finding a place in Middle East somewhere after doing our PhD in China. I said, why don't you go back to Pakistan? And so because if they are offered after a PhD, if they are offered a grade 17 and 18 and rot in that grade for the rest of their life, they are not going to come back.
No, right. And I'm going to actually I'm going to come to you, sir. Allow me to first go to Ambassador Nagmana. Ambassador Hashmi, we keep on actually behaving as if we have got all the time in the world as a country. I was reading Kai-Fu Lee's book, AI Superpowers. And the inflection point that he is mentioning is 2016, when they see that first time an AI beats a human being in Go.
Yes.
And at that time, all the Chinese people decide they are going to work on AI, and now they are a superpower in AI. Why is it that we keep on mulling over things rather than doing much about it?
This is an issue, I think, in every sector.
Okay.
And you're asking actually a political question. The problem
you can make it a political question. It is a fundamental question.
It's a fundamental political question, because the problem with us is that we don't have continuity of policy at all in anything. We don't have a long-term strategic view of 100 years where we want to see the nation in. Okay, let's say even in 50 years. So we have a policy that goes in for 2 years, 3 years, another government comes, changes the policy in a totally different direction. So you really do not have a strategic plan which links all the dots together. Where is the world going? Where do we need to see ourselves in 30, 40, 50 years?
Okay.
And that is why there's no connectivity between what we are trying to teach the children, what the student that will maybe in the next 5 years graduate, what would be the need after, would it be science, would it be physics, chemistry, metrology, what is it that we would need? So there is no linkage between education, the industry, that, the people that we need, and where we want to see ourselves going.
Yeah.
And still, there is that, because of lack of education, because of lack of understanding, and because of lack of understanding of where the world is going.
Whose lack of education? Policymakers?
No. Of the people at large, because we're not educated, not an educated.
No, but we are talking about policymaking.
This is what I am saying, that because we don't have that understanding, we have set ideas. Everybody wants to be a doctor, or everybody wants to be an engineer. Nowadays, everybody wants to do computers.
Okay.
It is only recently that people have started and seriously working on AI, but are thinking at the public level and at the policy level. There is no connection. There's only one think tank that has recently been set up that is looking at this. Just connectivity between education and where we want to see.
Just to bring it to this forum, before this program started, we were discussing, and I just mentioned that we lack an imagination. And you were disagreeing with me. And now you have just qualified how much collectively we lack in imagination. So you wanted to add regarding education and scientific education, please do. And then I'm told that we have to conclude.
I think there are systemic problems here. I believe that Pakistanis, on an average, are high energy people. And this is that high energy which is basically carrying us forward. We are making progress. But this is haphazard, but we are making progress. But there is no systematic way of doing, which basically leads us to what I would say, very frankly, a failure in governance. That has been. Why this? Now, when I say systemic, if you look at China, for example, the Central Committee of the Communist Party, when I was there in 2003, it had 6,000 members. 85% of them has the background of engineering, heading industries, planning, those kinds of things. Now, their thinking is very different. They are far more organized. They plan ahead. We have, unfortunately, most of us, we study political science, law,
English literature,
literature, those kinds of things. Anyway, so that is one thing. Now, this application of foresight, when the Chinese opened up to the West, this Deng Xiaoping's revolution, the second revolution, one of the first things that they did was sending students, young people, abroad, to Europe, to United States, to Canada, Japan. A minister told me that they had planned 70,000 to go to these countries. So there was debate that these people will not come back, etc. Deng Xiaoping decided that even if 10% come back, they would be very useful for China. When I was very recently, the figure in 2018, in United States alone, there were 400,000 Chinese students studying basically technology, sciences, and English. So the difference. Secondly, they imported technology, basic technologies, in the 1980s. And I can give you many examples. I have gone there here. So that those kinds of machineries, other things that they purchased from, imported from United States, they were basic technologies. Here China gave us also basic technologies in heavy industries, but we were not able to take advantage of all that.
Right.
So this is the a kind of a systemic problem that.
Right.
that
In conclusion, I will
imagination. You say the imagination, for that you have to have a kind of a coordinated effort which goes to the heart of the thing, governance.
Right.
Muslims in general, Pakistanis in particular, have to learn how to govern themselves in this day and age, modern age.
Yeah, but a concern about governance, Ambassador Masood Khalid Saab, is it is top-down model, right? My concern is that grassroots somehow has to actually start functioning as well. Your conclusion, sir? I'm told that we have to conclude the program.
Well, I would like to say that Chinese, my observation is the Chinese are very pragmatic and practical people, and they think long term. So we somehow lack that quality, number one. We say that China is our most important partner and close friend, right? And that is a fact. But how much research do we do on China in Pakistan?
Absolutely.
Is there any exclusive think tank which is focusing on China as to what China will be after 50 years, what will be its foreign relations, what will happen in terms of, US-China competition? We do not do that. So we do not attach the type of importance requisite and apply ourselves to research and education as much. I mean, if this is the most important relationship, then we should be, allocating enough resources for research, and because China spends a lot of money on research and development, for innovation. My concluding thought is that this friendship has stood the test of time. CPAC is a window of opportunity, and Pakistan can really benefit a lot, and to move on to the road of self-reliance. And we are on a learning curve. If we take advantage of this window now, it will be good for Pakistan. Otherwise, we will, as we did in the past, it will be another missed opportunity. And I hope it will not be so.
Right. Ambassador Nazmana Hashmi, your conclusion, ma'am.
I would like to say that we have a very good relationship with China. We had signed a friendship treaty with China in 2005, which is valid till to 2025. I think it's a very good opportunity for us now to put our act together, and the entire, the people concerned, the ministries and departments, and see where we want to take this relationship after 2025, because China has given itself a time limit. It says it will sort of complete its rejuvenation and become a superpower by 2049. So we need to focus on 2050 and have an agenda with China of where we want to see this relationship and how we can benefit from China's development and its rising status. And that last thing, I think it's time that we should make up our mind in which direction we want our strategic compass to focus. And I think we should align it in the right direction with that.
Ambassador Riyasat, if you very quickly want to add something as conclusion, please do.
Well, I agree with all that has been done. It's a very important, vital relationship. It has to be strengthened on a bilateral basis. One thing that we should be cautious about, there are sometimes talk about balancing. This is a delusion. Balancing. China, we should know who is going to give you in the world technology in nuclear power plants, technology in defense, technology in space. Which country will you go to cooperate in these areas? Advanced technologies, education. So China is a very critical relationship for Pakistan.
Absolutely.
It has to be sustained.
Right, sir. I'm told that we have to conclude this segment here. Riaz Mohammad Khan sir, thank you very much, sir, for your precious time. Masood Khalid sir, it was great pleasure having you here in the studio. Same goes for you, ma'am. Rahmana Hashmi sir, thank you very much for your precious time as well. Viewers, with the authorities like this sitting in the program, I don't think I need to add anything to the debate or discussion. But we try to actually explore what can be done now and in the future. We keep on talking about history. History is important. That relationship is there. A lot of investment from both sides has been made into this relationship. But now is the time for Pakistan to actually explore how it can benefit further, because China is a world open for opportunities. If it is open to the rest of the world, if we put our act together, perhaps we can also benefit equally. This was this segment. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.